Hey, sorry about all the noise the 3D printers are running for Etsy, of course. Etsy is not going to ban all 3D printed products by the looks of it, at least not yet. Yeah, what? Listen up. What they're going after is certain sellers that are doing things that are wrong. But also it's taking in some sellers that maybe are not that wrong. I'm not sure. Etsy is all about, the self-creative, the artist, creating something and selling it on Etsy and providing a service like that. And that's fine. But 3D printing has really gotten hard and heavy on Etsy. And it looks like Etsy wants to sort of, clean that up a lot. And where they're sort of, well, I don't even want to tell you, but where they're heading is towards the idea that if you buy or have a license for an STL file, but it's not yours, you didn't create it, you didn't do anything, all you did was run it on a 3D printer and sell it, they kind of want to get you out of there, yeah, and sort of take you out of that Etsy area, and they even ban your store. Wow, yeah. As a side hustle, this is a great little income for people like myself, but I design my own products. I create the designs. I write the stuff up. I make it on the 3D printers. I test the modeling, make sure everything's good, and ship it to customers. Well, so theoretically, I should not be in any trouble or worried about my store getting banned or something. I guess part of my problem, and it's in the back of my mind, is that if they get the AI in there or something and they start searching all the 3D printed, stores and going, okay, that's banned, and somehow I'll get caught up in the mix and I'll have to have a big fight with Etsy about, why I'm fine, why are you coming after me? But ideally, I think the biggest problem, and it's really not good to say it, but a lot of people buy a 3D printer and then they just go download whatever they want off the internet from places like Thingiverse and Printables and Fangs and whatever, but they don't pay a license fee, nothing. They take that model, they manufacture it with their 3D printer, and then they put it on Etsy for sale. And see, they're not custom making, they're not, it sort of falls outside the guidelines of what Etsy is supposed to be about. And that sort of thing, that's sort of where they're going after it. Now, my concern, and I understand anybody that's into 3D modeling, I'm sure they're concerned. A lot of them a lot of 3D printer people, a lot of 3D printing farms like to go on sites where they actually buy a subscription to a designer and download his modeling and then resell it on Etsy. And Etsy frowns on that, and it looks to me like they're going to ban it. And they're just going to say, no, we don't want you on the site. In fact, if we catch you doing what you're doing, we're going to ban you. And that's not good news for a lot of sellers out there, I'm sure. But that looks like that's where they're headed. They just sort of released it. It wasn't even an announcement. It was just kind of something they changed a policy on. Nothing was really said about it. And now all of a sudden, a lot of people are sort of, panicking, I guess, a little bit. I was watching a fellow, Sandcraft. He does the same sort of thing as I do, where he designs his modeling and then he resells it on Etsy. So theoretically, like Samcraft, like myself, a lot of us should not be in any trouble. We use CAD modeling, we create those models, and we sell them. That's fine, and Etsy's saying, that's okay. But what they're going after is the people that are downloading the STL files from somewhere else, sourcing them. And I think there's personally, I feel like there's a big gray area there, because if you, say you have a company that's on Etsy and your company's kind of big, you've got more than one person, whatever, and say somebody is in charge of just creating CAD files for modeling, then theoretically the person that owns the site may or may not even be the creator for the model that they're selling. So that, to me, sort of gets into is that legal, or are you saying you can't do that anymore? Does it mean that I have to be the designer at all times for everything I sell? And the sort of the short answer on that one is yeah, theoretically you wouldn't even be able to hire a designer. Also, it conflicts with these designers I just mentioned, them selling subscriptions. It means they could be cut out of a lot of money that they're making on subscription fees by supplying 20, 30 models a month to their subscribers that they can download and resell on Etsy. And it looks like they're kind of refraining or going after that sort of thing. I understand, because yes, it is outside the business model for Etsy, is that it's not being handcrafted or created by you, the seller. You're just buying an STL, you're just buying a file and creating something using a 3D printer. In other words, you're really doing hands off, nothing that nobody, the guy next door could do the same thing, just buy a 3D printer and go to town. And at one time, a lot of people thought, I'll just buy a 3D printer, I'll steal some STL files that are not licensed to me off the internet, and I'll just go ahead and sell these products on Etsy and make lots of money. And that was almost working right up until around 2019. Things started to kind of get tipped the other way a little bit, but also there was a flood of a lot of people doing the fidget thing and all that, and selling toys, whatever. But the same people over and over again, hundreds of people all selling the same thing because they downloaded it and subscribed to the same designer or took it from the same file. It was like, after a while, it's just cramming up the server, and it's not providing the kind of service that Etsy really wants to their customers and their clients. So I'm kind of going to get some hate mail maybe, but I kind of agree with what Etsy's doing as far as, let's track down on this and let's stop this. Let's get into, the artisan that creates that file, he creates that item, he sells it to the client, and that's fine. It's an artsy-fartsy kind of thing, but that's fine, what he's doing. And they're trying to get away from this, production kind of thing. Another place that I was just thinking of, also there's the drop shipping. They've been trying to get, I guess they're trying to really clamp down on that sort of thing, where you're just selling off of somebody else's site. You're not doing anything. You're not doing any services whatsoever. And also there's situations such as, like, I may create an STL file for like a purple rocket or something, but I might give it over to, I think it's Slant 3D, something like that, a farm where they produce and ship, manufacture, produce and ship the product that I've designed. And I'm not really sure where that falls into that category as to whether, does that mean that my store will get banned because I'm not actually producing that item? I don't think so. I think I'm okay because I'm the creator. I am making a product that maybe nobody else has. And that's sort of what I've been trying to stay with right now, is all my products are, I custom make these products and I sell them on Etsy. There is no other. If you don't buy my product, that's fine. There may be some competitors out there that you could go to. You'd probably have to go to eBay or somewhere else to find the products, but they would not be the same as mine anyways, because my design is, that's it. There is nothing else. Now, I'm hoping that this will sort of help stop any chance, because I have been concerned. Copycats. There are people out there that will buy your product and then measure it all up and remanufacture that product and try to compete with you on the same site, on the same platform, which is, yeah, that sounds stupid, but people do it, okay? Yeah, and it happens a lot. There's a lot of copycat stuff going on, especially Etsy has been fingered over and over and over again for copycats that show up later that start trying to copy someone else's successful design or, model. And it's sort of sad, because it's like, it's not right, but from the ethics it's not right, but from the business standpoint, somebody else, I can produce it for half that price. All I gotta do is get the sketches and measure it all up, and make what he's making, and we'll make the money, kind of thing. So there's a lot of dirt stuff going on there that I'm kind of hoping Etsy gets that all cut out of it. That's what I'd like to see. I have some competitors on the site that sort of run gamut with myself, but they don't really necessarily compete because they don't have my product, and some of their pictures indicate that their products are not very nice. Yeah, so it's like, well, you're cheaper, but have at it. And it kind of controls my pricing a little bit, but not really. Some of the products that I produce, you can't compete with them because the price is low enough that it's not worth it to somebody else to produce that part, and we make minimum on it or something. I got to keep an eye on my filaments. I'm running out of filament right now. It's on one of the machines, so I have to change over shortly here. But yeah, it's a big ban thing going on with Etsy. It's kind of, if you're a 3D print farm, I think we should all be a little bit concerned, at least, including myself and Samcraft. Anybody. I think we should all be a little concerned that we might get banned by mistake. That's what I'm thinking. That they might misinterpret something and say, oh, that's, you know, he must have got that off of some site somewhere and, you know, banned us or something. What I'd like to see is the people that just go and steal a file from like one of the sites, and they don't get licensed, they don't pay any, you know, attributions to anybody, and they go ahead and start selling on Etsy. I would like to see those stores banned. Yeah, I'd like to see that gone. Now, the ones that do the subscription fee to a designer, I don't know. I don't have any yes or no on that, but I do feel that it's probably, it doesn't fall within the Etsy guidelines, so it's like, yeah, you're probably going to get banned. You know, there's a very good chance, and you should probably drop your subscription to that designer, because you're not going to be able, theoretically, you won't be able to sell his product anymore on Etsy. Yeah, that's kind of a different nut in itself, isn't it? But this is the sort of thing that's happening, and I'm kind of like, I'm worried, like everybody else I think should be, that it's going to change things. Hopefully 3D printing will not get totally banned from Etsy, but I think that we need to thin the herd a little bit and get the, yeah, some of the bad people need to go. There is some bad, believe me. Oh yeah, there's some bad people out there that, you know, they really shouldn't be allowed to do what they're doing, and they're basically robbing hard-working people of their money by, you know, stealing files and then offering it for less price, whatever, on there. And I don't think it's right. You know, competition is one thing, but this type of situation is just totally unethical. Even from a business standpoint, I don't think it's the right thing to be doing. And it's gonna continue, you betcha. They'll try to slip under the wire. And that's where, again, I'm worried that Etsy will start slashing harder and harder rules that will create problems for maybe even Samcraft, myself, or anyone else that actually designs his own products to sell on Etsy. So that would be a bust, yeah. Coming up later this week, I got an update on the Camaro, so I'll get back to you on that. But in the meantime, I just wanted to update everybody with what's going on with Etsy. I had just given the wrong advice to a woman this past weekend. I just told her, yeah, you know, those slinky dragons, yeah, you can probably go on Etsy and sell those. Well, the answer to that right now is no, don't do it. Yeah, do not do that, apparently, unless you can design your own slinky dragons to put on there for sale. I would not do that now. Yeah, she sells at craft shows, travels around, I guess, a little bit, and she said she does pretty good, but I was telling her about Etsy, and I was realizing this morning that's bad advice. No, don't go to Etsy. Etsy is trapping down on that sort of thing. They want to get rid of all those slinky dragon sellers that all have the same STL file. Just change the color of the filament and make it, you know, like, yeah, that's not working. Anyway, hey, thanks for watching Copycat Tools. Checking in on us today. I will be back later this week, maybe before Thursday, about the Camaro. Like I said, I got an update on it. So right now, just say over and out.